Hey everyone, welcome to Nerding.io. I'm JD, and today what we're going to do is I'm going to take a website that I vibe coded for Nerding.io, and I'm actually going to add Vercel Workflows to it. And what this is going to allow me to do is actually build some agentic behavior that allows me to actually chat with videos, and they'll automatically be added to my embedding. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I used a bunch of tech words of what we're actually going to be doing here, and I kind of wanted to explain exactly what this means. So basically, I took a website and vibe coded a solution where I am going to pull in my latest YouTube videos, create an embedding, and then allow you to chat with it. So you can come in here, it's going to have key points of the video, and then the ability to chat with it. I also have an LLM full text, so it has all the information around my site. And I'm basically trying to make this a AI friendly website. Everything has full LLM full text. Everything is embedded and using RAG. And so basically I can come in here and say, what can I learn? And it will actually go and grab from the embedding the information. Now I could also send this through and actually just like take the LLM full text. You can actually copy it. So for instance, if I wanted to like copy this, throw it into ChatGPT, you can actually do that. And so I kind of wanted to work through what's actually happening because it's using a bunch of different tech. So I vibe coded the front end and I'm using what's called Vercel Workflows. So Vercel Workflows are basically a new workflow development kit that Vercel has kind of put together. And what this means is that it is basically a step and a wait kind of system. And what this means is like we can actually use the what's called a use workflow and the different types of uh, like right here, this use workflow to actually create steps that will actually execute and then even do awaits and then our final action. And so to kind of put this into like context, basically to do the same thing, I would have to have a running N8N system that would be happening in the background. What workflow dev kit does is in the same repository, in the same code base, I can actually run this exact same workflow of doing my embedding. That is a cron job. It runs on a regular schedule. It does everything from the checking, the transcript, and all putting it into Postgres. So I'm replacing this entire N8N flow with a step-by-step programmatic way to do it inside of my application so that I never have to worry about anything. And it gets deployed on top of Vercel services. Now, the other interesting thing is you don't necessarily have to use Vercel to deploy this, right? They are also making this agnostic. So, one of the things that's really awesome about where Vercel is going with this is their contribution to open source, right? Next.js being one of them, the AI SDK. Now we're actually getting into this workflow thing. You can see that it's getting into different types of frameworks. And the reason for this is because you can now actually deploy almost anything on Vercel. So what I did is I actually took something from AI Studio. Real quick, everyone, if you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. There's also the Vibe Coding Retreat community. And with that, let's get back to it. I pulled it down locally, and we're going to go through the steps in the order what I did to implement this, as well as the observability piece of what a workflow actually is. So step one, I basically started with the images from my YouTube site and basically did like a total refresh. I did like a neo-brutalism kind of theme. It came up with like how this is actually going to look. This was pretty much a zero shot with like some extra, hey, I actually want this information to be like pulling. I did try and do the workflow piece in here, but it actually just got really confused. And so I decided to scrap that and basically save everything into GitHub and basically pull this information down as a Vite application or Vite application. And so what that means is like, this is not necessarily Next.js. This is just a Vite app, and it's using the Gemini service, right? So it's another thing that ADI Studio does is it actually builds really well like AI services. I just didn't want to necessarily host it on Google. So I pulled all this information down, and we're going to start going through the workflow process. All right, so the first thing, we're just going to go back to the site. We're going to kind of look like, again, I have all of this pulling from the YouTube API, but I am not always pulling the YouTube API. I'm actually saving this into a database, right? So all of this lives in Postgres and is powering this application. So for everything from the videos to the llm.txt, all of this is being generated by the process of taking the YouTube video API and pulling that in through a workflow and processing all the data. So if we look at this chat modal, you can see basically what I'm doing is I'm just calling out these endpoints, and those endpoints are basically pulling in all of the information from the database. I am putting in Markdown as my information that I'm getting from the database, and I'm basically just doing the full transcript and a summary of what information I'm getting, as well as key highlights and the metadata associated with it, right? So this allows an AI agent to go hit the LLM full text, or someone could actually take this, copy it, put it into like Claude, ChatGPT, whatever your LLM of choice is, and actually have all the information of the video. So in order to run the workflows, those actually have multiple different things. So right here in the fetch workflows, this is how we're actually getting the each step. So you'll notice that I have fetch new workflows. This is a daily workflow that's going to run on a cron job. Once it processes the video, it's going to take each video and run it into process video, and it is going to sleep for 3 seconds. That's basically making it so that it's not going to get hit too many times. We can change this to 30 seconds or a minute if we'd like, and then it's going to go on in process. I also have a very similar thing, which is going to go out and grab all the init videos. So running locally, I can just basically say, hey, I need 50 videos. And I'm going to show you what that looks like when we actually run this. In order to process the video, I basically need to use my steps. So I'm still inside the workflow, but I'm actually using the step in order to get my existing videos from my database and basically see, do I have a video already, right? So if we look back at the fetch here, this is kind of what this is doing. It's basically looking to see, like, is there a new video that came? And if it did, go ahead and send it. I don't actually have a check here that says, go out to Postgres and look if I have a previously one. So this is kind of an upgrade. The second thing I'm going to be doing is once I get that information, I'm going to go ahead and get a transcript. That transcript, I actually really like using Superdata. So Superdata is basically a scraping tool that allows you to actually go out and scrape different kinds of information. For me, that's like the YouTube transcript so that I can do embeddings, but they also have other things like Facebook, Twitter, etc. In the description, there's actually an affiliate link, which would definitely help me out. But if you like them, I would absolutely check them out. API centric, super, super simple, and they have great uptime. So once we actually hit the transcript API. We'll get that back, and then we want to chunk it. So from that, we're actually going to build out our chunking strategy, and then go ahead and do our embeddings. From that, we already have this as an information that we're going to save. Then we're going to take that same transcript and extract the key highlights. So now that we're starting to get into the AI stuff, I'm going to go back up here and we're going to kind of look at some of the libraries that we're using. So first is the YouTube. So this is where I'm actually pulling information and trying to get the metadata and associated, like what video has been released in the last 24 hours. So this runs every day. Here's my super data. It is basically just going and looking for the transcript based on the video ID, get that information, pull it back, and then put it all together as one string. So that's one thing that super data does, is you basically get it in chunks already. We're going to take that information and put it into one string. And then here's where we start getting into the agentic behavior. So basically on generate embedding, all we're doing is actually using the Gen AI models and doing the embedding here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chunk that information. So this is basically just a chunking strategy. We're going to take that, we're going to go ahead and embed that chunk. And then with the highlights, this is just a prompt, right? So all we're doing is we're basically saying that we want to take our transcript, we want to analyze the video, and basically put it together into a JSON array of information based on title, description, and timestamp. If it doesn't come back as Markdown with JSON, go ahead and trim that. Well, if it does come back with Markdown, go ahead and trim it. Make sure that this is valid JSON and then parse it. So we're not actually looking for a structured output. We're basically just saying like, hey, if you are returning Markdown and inside that is a JSON blob, go ahead and remove the code backticks, right? The code backticks, and then give me all that information. So we don't necessarily need this structured output, even though we're kind of forcing it to give us structured output. Then based on that, we can also do like a full text. So we're basically generating the key. This is like us going through and giving a comprehensive summary of everything from the highlights to the transcript, as well as how we want that formatted. So again, we're basically just allowing us to create a summary or a better description. And then here is how we actually chat with video, right? So we're looking at the conversation, we're seeing what is getting pulled back. We've already passed in our video chunk of what we think is the most relevant information based on the context. And we're going ahead and fetching that information. So back in the workflow, we've now got our extracted highlights, our summary, our embedding. We're going to put all of that into the database, and we're just going to basically save that information. And this allows us to then chat with it. So this actually can be turned into an MCP server as well, where basically just like before, we're taking those embeddings and we're having an AI agent basically go here and, just like in the influencer MCP that I did, which is another video you can check out, we could take that embedding, same as it is here, and serve it up through an MCP. So this website is now fully AI ready in the sense that you can chat with the transcript, you can pull up the entire, LLM TXT. So on the videos themselves, I think this one should work. I guess we're down. So hold on one. So just need to actually run this again, and we'll just keep going. So now that we have this running, up again, we'll go ahead and like refresh and we'll just kind of keep going through it. But basically all of this information is being served through like best agentic practices, right? Again, like now that this is up, this should work. Still rendering. All right. Now it should be rendering, quote unquote. So now if we go and see our LLM TXT, we can actually see this at the general page has every video. So this is a way that like we could chat with that all together. And then when you go to this, you can copy, right? So if you wanted to put this into a chat, you could, or you can launch from another LLM full text. This is based on the YouTube video ID. And this is all automated. So let's actually see how we can serve up the workflow. So if you look, this npx workflow inspect runs. What we're going to do is we're actually going to run this. I'm going to go ahead and clear the database while this spins up. And you will go ahead and start fresh. So let's make sure we don't have anything here. So now we have no videos. We have our server. The server is now up and running so we're able to actually inspect the workflows. And now we're going to go ahead and run the command to actually initialize the workflow. So all we need to do is actually run a curl because we're actually going to hit the endpoint to kick this off. Now, in reality, what you would do is you would have Vercel, and that would have a cron job that would actually run this workflow. But just for our purposes, just so we can like initiate it on the fly, we're going to go ahead and do this init. This is only allowed on like the dev side, and you can see we got a response from our server that the initial workflow is started, and it gives us a run ID. So now if we refresh, we can actually see this running. This is our workflow ID. It's going to go back and it's getting all the initial videos that it can through the API, and it's actually processing the video. So it processed one, it wrote some information, it's processing again, and basically this is going to allow us to pull back more videos. So I'm going to let this run for a sec and kind of show you the end result. Cool, so this is actually almost done. I kind of want to show you the result over here in the database. You can see this one just popped in. So we basically now have our 5 videos that are a part of this embedding, as well as the information that we're actually pulling from the YouTube API and our transcript. So now our video is completed, or our workflow is completed, and we could have these run every single day. But one other thing I wanted to show you is that this actually maintains state, so that if you're doing development on this tool, you can actually come in here and close this workflow and refresh. And if you notice, there's this workflow data. So inside the data, it's actually tracking all the JSON for your runs and the information that's coming back based on your event and each step that is in each run. So I found that that was super, super helpful for at least for debugging locally. And then the ability to kind of like move throughout the system. So if I start this again, what's going to happen is it'll actually have the historical data of those runs here. So I'm going to wait a second. We'll see. But like why this is important is, for instance, when I'm working with like ingest or even trigger.dev or things like that, if I close this instance of this runner, it basically loses all my historical data. So I have a tendency to like have to keep that running for a long period of time, whereas this will just store it offline, right? So you want to make sure that you include this in your git ignore, but I just thought this was a really small but super awesome way of making sure that you have access to your runs and you can kind of clear out that data as you need to. So again, this was the Vercel workflow or workflow dev kit, and this is now the new Nerding.io site with all of the videos will be populated here where you can actually go and interact with them and ask whatever questions you want. I'll probably keep this live for a while, but if people start messing with it, I may take it down for a little bit. But again, just wanted to make something that was more of like an agentic first website where you can kind of use workflows to help you with that process.